Hi, welcome to another episode of I Can Alteryx That with coaches Alex and John. I'm John. Today, we're going to cover Alteryx Weekly Challenge number 180, the 1,000 File Challenge. Let's get started. Alright, so Challenge 180, we've got an interesting one here. 1,000 files. So what we have to do is open up a directory, loop through every single file, take the value in it, and then add them all together to give us this output of 3.140592. The challenge is, so in here we have all these different file types, a QVX, whatever that is, a GML, Alteryx databases, Excel, CSV, all sorts of things. And you'll notice that some of these file types contain multiple files. For example, you see here number 39, you get a DBF, a PRJ, an SHP, and an SHX. This is a shape file, and Alteryx only needs, or you actually only open up the shape file, SHP, but it needs all of these to actually work properly. And so that's where this hint comes into play, the suffixes and file formats. So the first thing that we need to do is go to the in and out and grab the directory tool. So this tool is not used very often, but what it's going to do, I'm going to navigate to my challenge 180 data folder where I unzipped the data for this challenge. And you're going to connect to that and run it, and this is what you'll see. The full path, the directory, the file name, and then a bunch of other stuff that, at least in our case, we're not really interested in. What I'm interested in here is the full path. But first, what I need to do is split out the file suffix, and we can do it either from the full path or this file name, so that I can use this lookup table, for lack of a better term, and join it so that we don't look at files that Alteryx can't open. That's going back to this right here. Alteryx isn't going to open the DBF file, but it will open the shape file, SHP. And if you look through here, you'll notice we have SHP, but we don't have like a DBF or anything like that. And in fact, you'll notice that when we ran this directory, we got 1,692 records. But since this is called the 1,000 record challenge, then clearly 692 of those records are files that Alteryx needs but doesn't open directly. So, all that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a regex tool, and we're going to parse the file name. Set this to parse, and I'm going to write in parentheses. Let's actually look at the data real quick. The file names are always numbers, and the suffixes are always these things after the period. So I think what I'm going to do is we'll just write D in squiggly braces 1 comma, then a period escaped by the backslash, and then this will be W1 comma, and that should, I'll call this like file name. And this will be extension. So hopefully I did that right. Yeah, and you see over here, we've got our extensions. We don't really care about file name, but we've got our extensions over here now. So now what I'm going to do is go to the in and out and grab a text input tool. And I'm going to click back on this comment right here, and I'm literally going to copy and paste that. And unfortunately, when I paste this in here, it doesn't get pasted quite how I would like it. So I'm going to have to type some of this in manually. There's not too many, so it's not really that big of a deal. And then, of course, we have to delete all this stuff. Oops, don't delete the text in there. You definitely don't want to delete the suffix name. That would ruin everything. I wonder what some of these files are. GML, SAV, MIF. Hey, what are these things? Beats me. You know what? It doesn't really even matter. QVX. Whatever. I'm guessing this is an SAS file. Oh boy. We'll do that. Okay, so now we have that. And we're going to join these two data sets together. So we're going to join the left will be our extension, and the right will be, oh, whoops, I forgot. Our headers are in row 1, so let's copy and paste these headers into the actual headers and then delete that. So we'll join extension on suffix. And I'm going to deselect a bunch of this stuff because I don't really care about all these things. So we've got our full path, we've got our extension, and our file format. That should be everything that we need. Okay, so you see right there we've got the fields that we need. And you see now that we have exactly 1,000 records to correspond with the files that Alteryx can actually open. So now, in order to open all of these, we're actually going to build a batch macro. So open up a new workflow. And the batch macro, what we're going to do is, I'm going to connect to just one of those data sources. It does not matter which one. And you can see here I was testing this. I already have a few. So I'm just going to grab this one right here. 3.yxdb. Again, it does not matter at all what you select right here. And I'm just going to connect that to a macro output. Not going to worry about renaming it or anything. And you can see that 3.yxdb file has one field called num with a value of 0.8. So what we have to do is, because this is a batch macro, Alteryx is going to loop through every one of these records. So for example, number 1, it's going to look at this file, challenge 180/data/106.avro with a file format of 48. Then it's going to do the next one, and then the next one, and so on. So in here, because it's a batch macro, we're going to use a control parameter. And for this first one, I'm going to say change file path. And I'm going to connect this to our input tool, and you'll see we'll get our action tool right there. And what I'm going to do is expand this right here. And you see here are our options. We can change the file path value. We can change the file name, the format. But what we're going to do is, for this first one anyway, is leave it right here. We're going to change the entire file path. But we have to do something else, because over here, if we just change the file path, say it's now 106.avro, but Alteryx is still going to think that this is a YXDB format, and it's not going to work. So we're going to grab a second control parameter. I'll name this one like change file format. Connect that to the input tool. And now in this action tool, expand this again, and we're going to change the file format. So now it's going to be 106.avro, and the format is also going to change to 48 or whatever it needed to be. So now one more thing, let's actually just test this. I'll show you. So you see here with the YXDB, we get this num 0.8. But if I were to change this to, for example, 23.shp and run that, you'll notice that we have this file with just underscores and then a spatial object. So it's different. If I were to do this again with, say, this JSON, 521.json, and run that, you'll see that we have a JSON name and the JSON value string. So they're all different. So if I were to go ahead and run this right now, and connect my macro and run it, I would get an error because 1, the column names change, and 2, the number of columns changes. So what we have to do is go to your view and open the interface designer. Now from there, go down to the properties gear icon. And for the output mode, we want to auto configure by position. You could probably also auto-configure by name, but honestly, I haven't tried that. I know for a fact that auto-configure by position will work. So I'm going to stick with that for now. And let's just go ahead and change this to just something that stands out a bit more. How about this yellow box? So let's go ahead and save this. And I have my macro folder is called Alteryx Macros. Yours might be different. And I'll just call this 180 macro. So now if I go back to the original workflow and go to my macros tool palette, you see I have 180 macro right here. And I'll connect it. And now you see it's asking for the file path. So I'll select our full path name. And it's asking for the format. And I'll select format. And if I go ahead and run this now, let's see what we get. So it might take a little bit. It does have to loop through 1,000 files. That's going pretty quickly. We're up to 70% now. Although it's slowing down. I wish this would go faster. Okay, and you see, oh, we got an error. Blob and spatial OBJ types are not compatible with any other type. So my solution to that is, since we don't really care about spatial objects and blobs here, let's go to the developer tool palette, grab a dynamic select, and this is back on the macro if you didn't notice me switching it over. And I'm just going to deselect blob and spatial object. I don't care about them anyway. So why even include them? The reason I do include some strings here though, is that on the JSON files, you can't see it right now, this JSON value string is just that. It is a string. So we do want to include strings, but we'll just deselect blob and spatial objects. So let's go back and run this again. Actually, I'm going to try something. I'm going to right-click this directory and cache and run. It's probably not going to help us much on this first time, but I think we need to cache the macro as well. I'm not too familiar with caching things, but it should make it run faster. And this isn't too bad anyway. So you see, it worked this time. So now looking at this, we've got two columns, a num and a num2. So let's just scroll through here and see what's up. Okay, so you see right here, it looks like when num2 has values, then num1, this looks like it's probably like the file name or something. Yeah, so it looks like when num2 has a value, then num1 is, yeah, see right here, these are JSON. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is grab a formula tool. This should be pretty easy to work around. And I'm just going to create a new field, I don't know, I'll call it value. And I'm going to say if is null. So if num2 is null, then I want num. Otherwise, num2. And make sure to make that a double. And since our goal is to sum all this together, let's just go ahead and drop our summarize. And we'll sum, oh that's great. It doesn't know that that value field is going to exist, so we can't do it quite yet. Let's right click and cache this one too and see if that makes things any faster. Alright, well, looks like it's going faster anyway. I forgot to look how long it took to run last time. Seems that it's about the same right now though. Whatever, it's about done. Oh, and I got an error. Oh, darn it. Because num2 and num1 or num are probably both strings, so let's wrap some two numbers. Oops, you don't need to do it there. You want to wrap a two-number function around each of these. Let's just see. Will the summarize tool recognize? Hey, cool. So now let's just go ahead and sum value, and that should be our answer once we run this. Hopefully. I think it will be. Oh, that was a lot faster. So, caching things makes things a lot faster, apparently. Well, look at that. So now that we've altered our num and num2 fields, you can see if we click on this formula, now our value is good throughout the entire range of 1,000 records. See here, instead of summing up that, we're now summing up the correct value from num2. Sum up the value column, and then we have some value of 3.140592. Perfect match. So that was definitely a little trickier. We got to use the directory tool, which I don't know if I've ever used that one myself. We got to use some regular expressions. Join, we made a batch macro with a dynamic select. 2 control parameters, so that was a really interesting and somewhat tricky challenge. You know, it's like using a bunch of tools and ideas that aren't really commonly used in Alteryx workflows. But in any case, there's my solution to Alteryx Weekly Challenge number 180. Thanks for watching. As always, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the Data Coach channel for more awesome lessons on Alteryx and all things data analytics and visualization. Follow Data Coach on Twitter at AskTessellation and follow me personally at jemery_dataviz. Thanks again.